Hi guys, and welcome to another review. This is the 15-inch MacBook Pro early 2011 model with the 2.2 GHz Core i7 quad-core Sandy Bridge processor. It's the one with the Thunderbolt port, first one to include that, and I've also got the high resolution anti-glare screen right here, and I'll go over the full specs in just a second. I'll just let it boot up now. I have an SSD in here. I just want to show you how quick that happens. Better for you. I just wanted to say about the design of the machine itself. Having one unibody aluminium block really means that this build quality is excellent. It's definitely the best consumer device that I've ever owned, probably even better than the iPhone 4. As you can see there, a startup application actually opened, as well as the whole thing booting up in usually under 20 seconds. When I first bought it, it was around 16, but I have added plenty of applications since then. There is also no trim support in OS X Snow Leopard, which means that once an SSD's cell has been used, it's actually not performing as quickly. So once I've wrote 128 gigabytes to the 128 gigabyte disk, it's not going to perform very well. But as soon as Lion comes along, that should fix that with trim support. I'm just going to run Geekbench 2.1. 32-bit version here, so that you can compare it to your computer at home, your iMac or whatever it is. And if you would, could you leave the comments below of your score and then tell me what actually you're running it on, and then you can compare it against here. And maybe someone else with a 2.2 GHz Core i7 Sandy Bridge processor MacBook Pro could tell me what they're getting without an SSD, or with slightly different specs, so that other people can work out whether they would want that or not. So, the full specs of this machine, as I said, Core i7 2.2 GHz with a speed boost of 3.3 GHz, an AMD Radeon 6750M, 1 GB, which has plenty of its own graphics memory. 1 GB is definitely plenty. 128 GB Apple SSD, I've got the one that's pre-configured. I worked it out to be cheaper to just get the SSD, and it is very fast and even supports SATA 6 gigabits per second. There's 4 GB of DDR3 1333 MHz memory in there. A high resolution screen I've got here as well. It is anti-glare, and I'll speak a bit more in detail about the anti-glare screen in a minute. So, as you can see here, we have a score of 10,043. That's dropped slightly from about 10,200 when I first bought it. However, the performance of the machine has stayed pretty much the same, and unnoticeable difference. The SSD speed is really great. I'm just going to show you the startup applications and stuff like that. Let me close down Geekbench and everything. And say if I run Dreamweaver, these are CS5 by the way, in the trial, so it's going to come up with a little trial thing. I'm not got around to buying it yet, but if I open up Dreamweaver, Illustrator, Photoshop, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, maybe iTunes, App Store, and I'll leave Steam for now. Say if I want to open Twitter while all these are opening up, there you go, it is literally instant. And then, as I said about the trials, there we go. At the moment I have all of them running, and I've not experienced one single slowdown with 4 GB of RAM, so I really cannot see the benefit of upgrading to 8 GB unless you're using After Effects, stuff like that, for really large file editing. Just quickly, while I'm booting it up again to get rid of all of them applications so I can run an SSD speed test, I wanted to go over this screen. The screen itself is the anti-glare one with a 1680 by 1050 pixel resolution. That's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, which means you're going to get little bars on the top and bottom if you're watching normal widescreen movies, stuff like that. But the anti-glare is what I wanted to go over most, and that is this sort of matte finish screen that doesn't have the edge-to-edge glass. That's how you know it is, because it's got the silver border on the outside. It makes it really easy to see outside, and it's actually very workable outside, which is perfect for a laptop, as I really don't think that a glossy laptop is that appropriate, considering you want to be using it in every environment that you can possibly take it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend the anti-glare screen, even if some people dislike the aluminium bezel. That is actually real aluminium there. And the colours on this screen seem to be slightly more true than the glossy screen, who seem to be a bit too vivid, and printouts seem near exactly the same colour. So if I go and find a downloads AGA speed test of my SSD, I'm going to do a disk read and write from my primary hard disk, say a 1GB file called with a 720p video clip, say, and that should be fine. Chuck the graph on here and start the test. Okay, we are writing at 178 megabytes per second. I've done quite a few of these tests, so obviously the trim support will be useful, as I've lost around a 30 megabytes a second write speed, and I'm getting 199 megabytes a second read, which means I'm going to be getting around 200 megabytes per second in real world usage. Especially after the trim supports came in, I'm going to get around 230 megabytes a second read and write speeds. Okay, so this isn't all good, this computer. Some things about it are a little bit annoying, especially the two USB ports right around the side. Let me give you a quick tour of the ports. What you have here, let me focus that in, is the MagSafe power adapter port, which is really great. Gigabit Ethernet, which also performs very well. Firewire 800 Thunderbolt, not had a chance to try that out, but apparently it does do 10 gigabits per second, which is incredible. And two USB 2, not 3 ports, which are very close together, which means if I'm using, say, a USB thumb drive, I'm not going to be using this port right next to it, which I found out in my art exam the other day, where I had to use either the mouse or the thumb drive. There's also a SD card XC slot, that's 64 gigabytes on one little tiny SD card, which is really good. Also we've got a mic input and a headphone output. Another note I wanted to say, the performance of this machine's sonic performance anyway is not that great, which is surprising considering many sort of DJs use these. Obviously it's the Apple logo that attracts them more than anything else. The sonic performance is okay, it's just as good as, say, an iPod or something like that, but it's certainly nothing to rave about. Another few disappointing things is the mouse performance. On here, the mouse comes fully accelerated and really damped. Trying to use a normal mouse coming straight from Windows is nearly impossible, as the mouse pointer slows down as soon as you go over any links sort of up here or a folder, stuff like that. I always overshoot the mark and it'll slow down loads if I slow down. I just don't see why they decide to do that. I managed to kill the acceleration and still found that the mouse wasn't behaving exactly how I'd like it to. So it's just taking a bit of getting used to, but it is worse than Microsoft. It's not just a preference, I can say that it is worse, as plenty of gamers will tell you that. The last little problem I found with this is it does get fairly hot when you're using it for intense applications, games and such. Around here, especially underneath this part right here, it gets very warm, which must be where the main processor and the heatsink is, or the graphics chip. So as soon as I'm using that and it's sat on my lap and I'm covering this little port, I'll just show you here that the cooling comes out right at this bottom part here. There's a little tiny vent under there where all the fans push it out, which is sufficient. However, it does get uncomfortably hot sometimes. That's probably due to the fact that this is made all of one block of aluminium, which conducts heat. I must say that this is definitely the best laptop that I've ever used, and I must say that it's definitely worth going out to buy one. This one set me back around £1,800, which is with the student discount of around 15%. That also gives you a 3-year warranty, so if you're a student or you know someone that is a student, you should definitely try and get one under the student discount, and it makes it a pretty good deal, to be honest, with the specs and everything. The speed of this machine is great. Just a couple more things I wanted to go over to tell you that there is a 7-hour battery in here built in, can't swap it very easily. And it's not recommended by Apple that you do swap it, as I'm sure it's not, because that'll go and make them a bit more money. And also we've got the DVD writer on the side, super drive, Bluetooth built in, 802.11n, 450 megabit a second full amazing wireless N, which works really well with the AirPod Extreme. I'm going to have a review on that. Please check out my channel. Stereo speakers and a microphone on this side. No stereo microphone. The speakers built in are also quite disappointing. Not that great considering the real estate that they're given on the front of this laptop, which is these grills right here. There is a FaceTime HD camera, which means that we are getting HD quality videos from this, which means that creating blogs and sending them up to YouTube is definitely not a chore on this machine. There's also still the infrared sensor right down here to use a remote with, which I found worked perfect with my Logitech Harmony 555. So all in all, I definitely recommend you go out and buy this machine. If you've got the money, it is definitely the ultimate laptop, apart from maybe some other MacBook Pro models, and everything else, I must say, seems to be left in the dark by this brilliant machine. Okay then, thanks a lot for watching. Please check out my channel and subscribe.